So I wanted to share with you a couple of thoughts around managing your paper pipeline. This is something that you hear people talk about, that you need to have a pipeline of papers that you're working on at all times. And this is going to vary, I think, from person to person. And to me, it's a balance between quantity, quality, and scope. So let me share with you a little personal story. So when I started out working on my dissertation, I had my dissertation, obviously, that I was working on, and I had a couple of other projects that I also had on the side. Now, in the beginning, I had a very narrow pipeline, if you will. And what I learned is that, for me at least, it made me fairly productive. The reason for that is that it allowed me to be quite quick when it came to turning papers around. So, I would work on a project, I would send it to a journal, and as soon as I got it back, I would pause anything else that I was working on, which typically was another paper, and I would work on revising that paper and then sending it back in. And then as soon as I had done that, I could go back to my other project. Meaning being productive, I mean, I actually got to see the papers to completion, meaning that they actually got published. And of course, there are no guarantees, but it helped me to stay focused. Now, as I became a little bit more senior, and I think this tends to happen, that you broaden your horizon, as so to speak. And I got very interested in lots of different things, and I ended up with a fairly large portfolio of papers. And for me, at least personally, and I know this varies, some people are very good at this, but for me personally, I found it very hard to manage a very large portfolio of papers. And my productivity actually went down. You should think it's almost the opposite, right? But now that I had all these projects, what I saw is that I wasn't able to get them to completion, and partly because it was very hard for me to switch between projects. So the cost of switching was very, very high, and I lost focus, frankly. The other thing that I realized in this process, and this is something that I've been thinking quite a lot about, is that by expanding and losing focus, I also did not dedicate enough time to what I think of as these high-risk, higher returns papers. So in all of these projects, I tended to focus on what I at least perceived to be a little bit lower risk projects, still high returns. But the really risky but higher returns papers never really got the attention that I think I should have given them. So for me, maybe you think about when you hear this, develop your portfolio papers, think about the quantity. What is a manageable number for you? That's something I think you have to experience, but maybe start with fewer projects and not get engaged in too many in the beginning. The quality of the projects. So for me, as I said, looking back, I wish I had spent some more time on the higher risk, higher returns papers. So at least try to keep these going. And then the scope. So I think you tend to get this advice that, when people say your name, they should think of a research area in marketing. And I think that's true, actually. And as you get interested in lots of different topics, you tend to wander away from kind of your core area. So as you do that, maybe that's something that you could do a little bit later in your career. Although I've seen people actually being able to do that early on in the career, but that tends to be the exception.